Y'all know what kills me? I cannot leave the house without spending $300.
Coffee. A 12-pack of soda of any flavor, every variety, is now $8 to $9 for a 12-pack of soda. This, which I ended up getting, was $3.50.
Like I'm drowning. Financially drowning.
$1,200. $1,200 is what we have spent on groceries.
I almost sold my couch this week to make ends meet.
My taxes went up 26.83%.
Today we're talking about the cost of living crisis and how it's affecting everybody and how people are trying to pull through this stuff because everybody seems to be struggling right now. Let's get to these and let's talk about it.
I can't afford to live here anymore. I can't afford to live here anymore. I just spent 6 hours of my life serving tables, running around to make $50. To make $50. And I already know the comments are going to be like, well, get a better job. I'm trying. I moved here 3 weeks ago. I was sent out over 100 resumes. I've had one interview. I didn't get the job. I knew I blew it. I did not get the job. I'm trying. The only reason why I got a server job is to make some money while I'm trying to get my big girl job again so I can get checks that actually matter. You know, so I can make money I can actually live off of. But nobody calls. Nobody's calling for these jobs. You know, Indeed is, we're hiring. Or where? Okay, because I sent my resume and I can't get it. I can't afford anything. Okay, I live with my son and his roommates right now, and I'm very thankful for that. But I need my own place, and I can't afford it. I can't afford anything. I cannot afford to live here anymore, and I can't take my own life. You know, so like, what am I supposed to do?
$1,200. $1,200 is what we have spent on groceries this month. We're not eating steaks. We're barely eating meat. It's like ground turkey instead of ground beef. We're doing canned tuna for tuna casserole. My kids have ramen and dumplings when I don't feel like making dinner. We're not going out to eat. We're not going crazy. We have some snacks every once in a while, but it's like, oh, I don't know, a bag of Doritos every other week is what we're buying. And mostly it's like air-popped popcorn. How are we spending $1,200 in a month on groceries? This is unsustainable. How do we live like this?
Like I'm drowning. Financially drowning. So back in April, I had a baby. And I decided to take 9 weeks off. Now, I have had 4 children now working at the same company, so I kind of knew how things went. I took 9 weeks thinking that my insurance was going to pay 8 weeks. But because they run it under short-term disability, you have to be off the week, blah, blah, blah. Oh, that's why I took 9. Anyway, long story short, they only paid me for 6. And when they do pay you, it's like a max of $250 a week. So when you go and you have to pay back your insurance on a bi-weekly basis and the taxes that come out of there, you're getting basically $200. So I was not paid very much. The last 3 weeks that I was off, I was paid nothing. Everything that I had saved from my taxes, gone. I spent all of it, everything. That also meant that I was like I'm a month behind on my car payment. I have a few credit card bills that like I was paying the bare minimum and I got behind on those. And so now everybody and their brother is calling me and wants their money and wants their money and wants their money and wants their money and late fees and this and that. And it just adds up. It's a spiraling ball, right? So here I was making progress and now I'm like retracted in progress. And then just the other day, my TV broke and now I need to buy a whole nother TV. And so there's that. And now there's school supplies and the fair's coming up that I take my kids to every year. And I'm paying extra money because I want to send my middle daughter to Washington, D.C. this next spring. So it's financially drained. I don't know how any of you get ahead. I don't know how any of you have a savings. I don't know how any of you get ahead in life at all financially. but I just can't do it.
This is so sad to watch. You know, the cost of everything just keeps going up, and it seems like everybody's starting to complain now, even though the stock market's at all-time highs, but so is everything else. Everything is more expensive. I mean, we're seeing people vlogging themselves eating Golden Flakes and peanut butter. And, you know, what do you think about this stuff? Comments down below. Are you going through this? Are other people going through this? Are you hearing about this? I mean, we're reading comments like this. You know, they're blaming it on Republicans. They're blaming it on Trump. They're blaming it on these bailout bills. But where do you think the real problem is? For me, I think it's Congress. I think they've printed way too much money, and we're seeing the problems with it, and they have eradicated the middle class. That's what they have done. I mean, people should be furious about what these politicians have done with the amount of money they printed. I mean, it's just getting worse, and it's filtering down through property tax. It's filtering down through insurance policies going up, cost of health insurance, everything. And to start over, I often wonder, like, what would I do to start over now? Like, what's my start over plan? I think everybody should have one. It is just so scary that you look up and lose your job and your car and your house all at the same time because you don't have an emergency fund because you're spending it on everything else. I mean, like, look right here. I'm 54. I rent a room. I can't afford to live alone or eat every meal. That's wild that we're skipping meals in one of the richest countries in the world. The decline of America, the struggle is real. Indeed is a data harvesting scam. That's true. A lot of these job mining firms are mining data, and they're just getting all your data. And they never really had a job for you to apply for to begin with. It's pretty scary. Look at this. At this point, my bank account looks like in money laundering, since it's basically acting like pass-through account for bills. It just goes in one side and out the other. That's true. I know a lot of people feeling that one.
Y'all know what kills me? I cannot leave the house without spending $300. If I get in my car and go somewhere, whether it's groceries, running errands, eating, picking up stuff for the kids, like, I just went to Walmart. No joke, y'all. I got 6 bags. 6 bags. $297. No wonder people is trying to make a living off TikTok, because you can't afford to go nowhere. You cannot afford to leave the house anymore. You leave the house, get ready to swipe. I mean, this is so ghetto.
That's so true. And they've got us all trained that you can just swipe your card. I mean, you can't even go park somewhere for 10 or 15 minutes without buying something. You can't go sit somewhere. I mean, I was in Las Vegas. This is a perfect example of it. There wasn't even a chair to sit down unless you were buying something. There was nowhere to go unless you were buying something. It's pure capitalism. And our society revolves so much off of spending money that if you don't, the police will come and just move you along. But where do you go? I mean, there's only so many public places you can go. And if you stand around in public long enough, somebody's going to come and get you there too. It's crazy.
I don't understand how anyone can leave their house and then look around and be like, things are great again. Because every single time I go to a store, I leave wanting to crash out. I went to go get coffee. Tell me why the canisters of coffee that used to cost like $6, maybe $7 are $20 now. $20. So if you worked at a minimum wage job, you would have to work for 3 hours before you could afford to buy a canister of coffee.
That's so wild. And it's going to go up again. I saw the numbers the other day saying that it was going to go up another, 30-40%. Isn't that wild? I mean, I base my life off of coffee prices, that, ammunition, and basic food, and like the price of outlets for a house, because that kind of shows you a spreadsheet of how the world's going. That's my own math there. Coffee is crazy. I mean, go to Starbucks. Just a house coffee is going to cost you $3-4. And if you go to Taco Bell at number 6, well, that's almost $20 now. I don't know how people are surviving.
Coffee. A 12-pack of soda of any flavor, every variety, is now $8 to $9 for a 12-pack of soda. This, which I ended up getting, was $3.50. $3.50 for this. These were like 90 cents to $1. And I was like, am I crazy? So I started looking at my Walmart order history to see, like, am I way off about this? No. Because 2 years ago, the same coffee that I just looked at right now that cost $20 was $6.99.
Think about what she just said. She looked at her Walmart app. If you're looking at that data, so is Walmart. And now that you're going to have to scan every item on your phone to see the price, you're going to know everything you're looking at. The machine is going to be way smarter than us.
For the same exact brand. If all of the rest of you would stop pretending that this is normal and just open your mouth and be like, hey, this is not what I thought it was. This could stop. But instead, we have a whole bunch of you who are willingly going to the store and being broke when they leave. But you're not going to say anything because he's your favorite president. The prices are never going to go back down. Like, what are you guys not understanding? For so long, all I heard was, oh, the prices and COVID and the cheaper eggs. He was going to save us some money. Look around, okay? Because somehow my husband makes 5 times more than he did 10 years ago, and I feel like we're barely making it by. I used to love the U.S. I loved growing up here. I used to look around and be like, I am so lucky that I grew up here.
This is fucking real life. In my small town of Lisbon, Maine, my mill rate went from 13 to 17.25. My taxes went up 26.83%. 26.83% in my small little town because those sons of bitches in the town.
They not have homestead exemption there? I mean, in the state of Florida, you have homestead exemption, which kind of caps how much they can raise it every year. And if you don't file for it, they can raise it, to however they're going to raise it, unless it's an assessment. They can usually come with an assessment, and they're doing that to me this year. It's crazy, but I would like to know, does your state have homestead exemption? You need to know about homestead exemption because it will cap a lot of these.
Office misappropriated over $2.7 million. There's a huge scandal in my town. Guess who needs to pay for it? Me. 26.83% increase in my property taxes in little old Lisbon, Maine. That's how I feel about that. I feel bad for my friends who are being...
Not to mention your utility bill will go up 30% too. Like my utility bills have gone up 30%. My insurance has gone up 100% almost. Electrical bill, 30-40% increase. Everything has gone up. So 30% on taxes, 30% on utilities. The cost of everything, cost of living, cost of ownership, through the roof.
Being hit with tens of thousands of dollars in tax increases. The elderly, people on fixed incomes. Yeah, this is Maine. Positive affirmations.
Look right here, we are in a recession, but no one wants to call it. That's true. They just changed the definition of a recession, so they didn't have to call it. We were all warned, and now we're suffering. I said 3-4 years ago when the whole thing started that we would see bread lines, but we're just seeing a reverse bread line. We have seen so much inflation. People think they have more money and more stuff, but the price of everything crept up too, and before you knew it, you were boiled in the pot. They just didn't know it for a few years later. I bought a 5-gallon bucket of paint for my house, $287. Same 5-gallon, July 2020, $110. Look at that. That's double and a half, okay? That's on everything. An electrical outlet, like a switch in a house, was 47 cents before the 19. I think they're 97 cents now. A roll of Romex that goes in your house to make all your electricity work, that was 40 bucks. Pre 19, now they're about 80 or 90 bucks. So you can tell exactly how much everything off of that has gone up. It's crazy.
Moved from the Midwest to the Pacific Northwest, where my cost of living is so much higher. I sold my home for $85,000 in the Midwest, and I bought a home for $815 in Pacific Northwest. Or let me tell you why I have more money now than I did in the Midwest. For all of y'all telling me that I need to pick it up and sell my house and move back to the Midwest, let me tell you why you are wrong. I made $39,000 in Illinois. I made $217,000 as a nurse last year in Portland, Oregon. My average gross income was $3,250. Minus my house payment of $530, that left me with $2,720 left gross. In Oregon, I made $217,000 last year. That totals a gross of $18,100 every single month, minus my mortgage payment of $5,000. That leaves me with approximately $13,100 every single month to spend. Of course, that does not include taxes. $2,720 versus $13,100.
All right, comments down below on this. I'm calling a straw man on this. We're comparing one place to the other. She's computing. We don't know what her property taxes are. We don't know what her homeowner's insurance is on this house. We don't know a lot of things about this equation. We also know she's going to have state income tax probably where she went in Oregon. Comments down below if there's state income tax there. She's going to be in a different tax bracket for her income, so we're going to have that. We don't know her car payment. We don't know how many miles she's driving. We don't know how much she's spending on gas, because these are two different lifestyles. There's a lot to ask here, but I will say that it's wild to see the difference what two different places in the United States can look like. For me, I would work for a while in a place where I can make a lot of money, and then I would move to a place where I don't have to spend a lot of money to live, and I would just have this nest egg to go to like Monroeville, Alabama and buy a nice house, you know, work digitally, and life would be good. You know, I'd have a bunch of money in my pocket with a cheap place to live, and we're just going to move on. But I wouldn't want to trade Midwest for Portland, Oregon right now, because that place is wild. If you live in Portland, comment down below. Is it good, bad, ugly? What's it like? Because I just helped somebody move from Portland to Pensacola to buy a house because I'm a real estate agent here, and they were like, we couldn't get out of there fast enough.
Because, hey, it's about to get real bad here for us in America. Our healthcare system, because I live at the hospital with my identical twin daughters while they go through a 2-year chemo treatment plan on a clinical trial that used to be funded by the government but is no longer. I am a family that currently uses Medicaid and is about to watch what happens when that is finally cut, because it will happen. Our hospital, God, what do we even call her? She's at Kenya. Shout out, love you. Social worker, doing the Lord's work, helping us try to just take advantage of all the leftover scraps that there are. And she's told us all of those programs are running dry, and for everyone saying that it doesn't matter that the federal funding's cut, because there's plenty of great private institutions that will help.
If you are encountering this, comments down below, because this is scary. I was looking at how much Medicare, I got a lot of friends that are doctors, my wife works at a hospital, how much is being cut from this. And I don't believe any child should ever have to worry about getting medical treatment. You're an adult, okay, I can see the argument there, but a child, there's no way that a child should not have proper medical treatment. I would buy 100 less bombs for the other side of the world than a kid go without medical treatment. Now I can see, you know, for an adult, like, we can argue this, but for a child, you know, also what's crazy is the amount of BMWs and Porsches that are in front of a hospital, and the amount of those people that are getting government subsidized healthcare, like Medicare and Medicaid. I was shocked at how many babies were delivered from rich people on that, because they operate through businesses, they write down their income as much as possible, and voila, they're getting Medicare, Medicaid for their child. I think it's Medicaid. So it's like, what do you think about
hey, guess
that?
What? They're actually not helping. I can also tell you what it's going to look like now that the Medicaid is cut, and families who no longer are insured are having to rush their children to Seattle Children's ER because they can't afford to take their children to the pediatrician because they don't have health insurance. So while all of us are already suffering, you in your privilege might think that none of this is going to affect you, but even with your private insurance, in times of crisis, you're going to have to show up to the emergency department. And when they're flooded with families who used to rely on Medicaid and now have to use the ER as their common pediatrician, you are going to be experiencing healthcare professionals that are drowning in patients who they are not equipped financially to take care of, because what happens is when the insurance can no longer be billed, the hospital is billing, and these families don't have the money to pay the hospital. So now the hospital is just out money, and the hospital today at rounds, as I'm standing there in the hospital with my daughters going over the reports of their health with the doctors, they took a moment to say that they saw my People magazine interview and they thanked me, and they mentioned that they were talking about our family and what I've been doing in one of their classes as they were teaching their students, and said that, you know, this is the reality of what's going on, and please go look at this family to see. It's like, the doctors told me this morning, they say, Mallory, thank you. We try to tell our family and friends that the system is just crumbling before our eyes, and it's about to get really, really bad now that we've allowed the big, beautiful bill, say it by its name. The big, beautiful bill has stripped away Medicaid, defunded SNAP, cut children's cancer research dollars. I mean, I just found out this morning that patients in Canada that used to be able to be a part of U.S. clinical cancer trials were just told they could no longer be a part of the trial because of funding cuts that have happened.
Comment down below if you know a lot about this. I personally think hospitals are going to eat a lot of stuff now. And they were doing it before, where there was a lot of bills that went unpaid, and hospitals were starting to look at the end of the budget and be like, how do we do this? And the shortage of doctors, that's crazy too. We get a lot of doctors from overseas, and it's really hard to retain them in some of these hospitals. And then if you have a local hospital that's owned by the city versus a private organization, you have a difference in the amount of care you can get at the two places. Like the local funded city hospital is not going to be able to afford some of these doctors that are going to the private entities. How many unpaid medical bills is each going to be able to soak up? It's wild.
I almost sold my couch this week to make ends meet. This is super vulnerable. I'm a 50-year-old woman who's educated, who found myself asking this week, how did I get here? And I realized, despite my affirmations, my prayers, my everything I've been doing to move out of this situation, I realized that I have been holding on to fear and struggle like a security blanket because it's all I've ever known. And something shifted for me literally overnight, where I realized I don't need to hold on to that anymore. And I heard in my meditation when I was at kind of the end of my rope of just like, God, show me the next right step, because I know there's so much more to life than living like this. And all what I heard really clearly was, it's all available for you. You just need to believe. And here all along, I thought I was, but I realized the extent of what I was holding on to out of comfort, out of pattern. And, you know, it reminds me of this experience I had.
If you're in a situation like this, know that you do matter and you can pull through this. It's going to be hard. It's going to be tough, but you gotta believe you can. I think everybody should always have backup A, B, C, D, E, F in a little journal somewhere, that if they ever hit rock bottom, they know exactly how they're going to get out of it. And I know it's even harder when you have a child. It's like, what do you do with the child while you try to go make some money? And I see parents struggle with this all the time. And now that everything is so much more expensive, not to mention you're boxed by your credit score and proof of income and all these things that you got to provide before you can even get started. And that's why I always say, don't do debt as much as possible. Make sure you're paying down that debt as the economy is starting to peter out, as things are starting to get worse, because you could lose your job tomorrow. And if you have no backup plan and you can't afford that mortgage, or you're cutting it close to begin with, it's going to really hurt when you lose that job. Live below your means. Always have an emergency fund. Don't do credit cards. Don't do mortgages you can't afford. My last video was about people buying too much houses and too much of a house and saying, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go get me a little house. Stability and a little house. I would rather be comfortable and well-fed in a little bitty place than starving to death in a giant place. But that's all I got, everybody. Comment down below. I know what you think about the cost of living. I know we've been making a lot of videos about it, but if we don't keep screaming about it, politicians aren't held accountable, and we've got to hold them accountable. Comment down below. I'll see you guys on the next video.